So now we enter the topic of gases exchange, the subtopic of transportation of CO2. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the diagram. Okay, so this is the tissue area and this is the bloodstream, okay, that contains the hemoglobin, our red blood cells, and this is the lung area. Okay, so as you know, our tissues undergo cellular respiration, so it will release CO2. Okay, so a lot of CO2 must be carried out from the tissues to the lung, to the outside lah. Alright, so the CO2 is carried to the lung area by 3 ways. Okay, the first pathway is around 5 to 10% of CO2 will be dissolved in plasma. Okay, the second pathway is around 10 to 30% CO2 will combine with HB. Okay, combine with HB to form carbaminohemoglobin. And the third and last pathway, which is the most abundant way, is around 60 to 85%. CO2 moves through plasma as bicarbonate ion. Okay, so we'll go one by one, where we see the first pathway. Okay, so the CO2 that is produced in the tissues will dissolve in plasma. So the CO2 will enter here and combine with H2O. Okay, we'll combine with H2O, where this H2O is already inside the plasma. Okay, so when it combines, it will form H2CO3, which is carbonic acid. And this H2CO3 is not stable. Okay, so it will dissociate to form H2CO3 minus, which is bicarbonate ion, and H plus ion. Okay, so this H2CO3 minus will be carried to the lung area. So when it arrives at the lung area, the HCO3 minus will combine back with the H plus ion. Okay, and form back the H2CO3. So the H2CO3 will dissociate again to form H2O, which is the water, and also the CO2. So this CO2 will move into the lung area, where the lung, the partial pressure of the CO2 inside the lung is much lower compared to partial pressure of CO2 inside the plasma. Okay, so that's why the CO2 will be able to move inside the lung and into the environment lah. Okay, so the second pathway is where the CO2 from the tissues, okay, will combine with HB to form carbaminohemoglobin, where it will enter straight into the red blood cell hemoglobin and bind with HB and H2. So it will bind with the amino group inside the hemoglobin to form HB and HCOOH, which is carbaminohemoglobin. Okay, so this carbaminohemoglobin will go to the lung area. When it arrives at the lung area, so the same thing happens. The reverse reaction happens again, where the carbaminohemoglobin will dissociate to become, okay, this one, and also CO2. So this CO2 will move inside the lung area because there is difference in partial pressure of CO2. Okay, the same thing happens lah. Right, the third and final pathway, which is the most abundant pathway, around 60 to 85%, where CO2 from the tissues, okay, it will enter the red blood cell and bind with H2O that is already inside the red blood cell. Okay, so when it binds with the H2O, it will form the same thing, H2CO3, which is the carbonic acid. But this process of combining CO2 and H2O is helped by one enzyme, which is carbonic anhydrase. Okay, this enzyme makes this combination of CO2 and H2O more efficient. That's why this is the most abundant way of transporting CO2. Okay, so the same as the first pathway, where this H2CO3, which is the carbonic acid, is not stable, so it will dissociate to become HCO3 minus, which is bicarbonate ion, and also H plus ion. Okay. Okay, because this red blood cell, membrane of this red blood cell is permeable to anions, this CO3 minus will move outside into the plasma. Okay, so when the HCO3 minus move outside into the plasma, the H plus charge increase inside the red blood cell. So who's going to neutralize the electrochemical charge? So the Cl minus here. But where does this Cl minus comes from? It comes from sodium chloride in our bloodstream. So this sodium chloride will dissociate to become sodium ion and also chloride ion. So this chloride ion will shift into the red blood cell to neutralize the electrochemical charge. Okay, so this shift of this chloride ion is called chloride shift. Okay, this is very important. Okay, to neutralize the electrochemical charge inside the red blood cell. Okay, so with the increase of H plus ion, the pH will also be decreased, become more acidic. So who is going to neutralize or increase the pH? So it comes from hemoglobin, from oxyhemoglobin, sorry, oxyhemoglobin. So oxyhemoglobin will dissociate to become hemoglobin and also oxygen. Okay, so this hemoglobin will combine with H plus to form hemoglobinic acid. Hemoglobinic acid. Okay, this hemoglobinic acid act as buffer. Okay, to increase the pH, to make it less acid in the red blood cell. Okay, so the oxyhemoglobin will dissociate to become Hb, as I said before, and the oxygen. So where does this oxygen goes? It will go to the tissues for the cellular respiration. Okay,